We've got a doozy of a job for you today. It's a French drain system that we're going to be installing, and we're going to walk you through step by step how to install a French drain, also how to price the installation of a French drain, the tools that you're going to need, everything hopefully to help you guys out on your own projects. Now, this video is sponsored by LMN Software Company. This is a software company that we personally use, and I will tell you that we endorse. And so a lot of times, guys, you'll see commercials on my videos, and I don't control those. So when I have an opportunity to actually give an endorsement or a shout out to a company that I think is actually beneficial to you guys, I'm going to do that. So today, what are we waiting for? Let's get into how to install a French drain system.
All right, let's see if we can get down there.
Every French drain must have an exit point, and you're gonna see where we're gonna exit ours. This is kind of unique.
Hand me the camera. All right. So here's where the drain tile's coming out of from the backyard through this PVC. You can kind of see it dripping, so that it's doing what it's supposed to do. We'll see how it's just coming through there once we tie the rest of the drain tile in there. I always get stuck in tiny spots, man.
So this French drain job is going to be a bit different than what I would air quote a standard French drain. Now, a standard French drain is really designed to collect your surface water, move it along underground, and daylight it out to wherever you can get it to go. What we're going to be doing is what I call a modified or hybrid French drain. And what we're trying to do with this system is capture the groundwater. Because the groundwater table is so high in this area, it's automatically flooding the house. If we can dry and capture that water up underground before it has a chance to raise, we're going to hopefully be able to keep these guys' backyard drier and their basement from flooding out. So everything that we're going to be doing today is a standard French drain, except deeper at the exit point. In the field, we get back to the right elevation, but we'll show you what we mean in a moment. Now, the first thing that you've got to do with the French drain is daylight it. You got to have some place to go with it. In this case, we're actually going to be tapping into an established drain pipe that already goes into a storm sewer inlet. Now, you cannot perforate a storm sewer inlet without a permit. But what we found in this case was somebody had already done that work for us. So we're going to tap into that pipe to daylight our drain tile. So what we're doing here is using two Fernco's with a 6-inch Y pipe, and that's what we're going to hook our system into it. This does exit where you seen Sam crawling down into the storm sewer inlet earlier. That's where this system exits out into the street. So I want to go back to where I called this a hybrid French drain system. In reality, a French drain needs to be 12 inches below grade and is designed to capture surface water plus subsurface water at the same time. But because we were able to identify where a big portion of the problem on this job site came from, which was subsurface water, we wanted to be more aggressive with capturing that subsurface water and getting it to go down into the storm sewer drain. So this system is going to be deeper than your standard French drain, just at the outlet. Now, the rest of our real French drain is almost 200 feet away, so we had to account for that elevation pitch when we were setting our French drain field. And I want to reinforce that so that if you guys are out there looking at doing your own French drain system, you don't follow this video exactly. You want to go about 12 inches deep with your French drain. Now, another question that's come up is, how much do I charge for a French drain? On a project like this, we'll typically get anywhere from $25 per linear foot up to around $40 per linear foot. And that does not include regrading the yard, resodding, or anything else. What that does include, it includes the drain tile, filter fabric, rock, hauling away the excavation spoils, which is part of the project, and then putting everything back in place, including the labor to do that. But any other landscaping that happens to be a part of this project would be charged separately. Hope that helps. So let's talk about the process of actually installing the French drain. After we have the trench dug, we line it with permeable filter fabric. You don't want non-permeable. And I know that may sound like, oh, a no-brainer, but permeable allows the water to pass through but keeps the fines out of the drainage zone. So the drainage zone is the actual rock that we install. So we line the trench with the filter fabric. We then put our 4-inch drain tile into that trench. Now we use a corrugated perforated drain tile. We just like that. We could use solid Schedule 40 that's been perforated. I don't prefer to use that because the corrugated gives me the flexibility to be able to make angles and changes in the grade, and it's a little more forgiving. But there's a couple things that we don't compromise on, and that's the fabric and the rock. The more rock, the better. The more fabric, the better. The longer the entire system will hold up. Those are two things that you've got to get right, or you're going to be going back after the fact. Now, one of the things we haven't covered much in this video is mobility on the job site. Now, during the course of this project, it continued to rain on us day after day, making the site almost inaccessible with a skid loader with wheels. We ended up using 2 different ASVs on this project. We've got our standard ASV 75, which we used for a lot of the main dirt moving, but we also ended up renting an ASV RT 30 just to get it into the site, into some of the tighter areas, because we had nothing else that could actually move around and also get the job done. So that's something to consider when you guys are doing your own French drain. Remember, it's going to be already wet conditions, and then if Mother Nature doesn't cooperate, it's going to make a challenging site even more difficult. So make sure that you have the right equipment right out of the gate ready to go. And because the site was so wet, we had to actually do this job in stages. Instead of opening up the entire trench, putting in our drain tile system, our fabric, our rock, and then closing it up, we had to actually open up a small section, make sure that we had all our benchmarks right, and then close it up because we actually couldn't get around any other way. It was just too muddy, too mucky, and too challenging to crack open the entire site and hope that we could squirm our way past this trench without collapsing anything in or altering any of the elevations. Remember, your elevations have to stay consistent or you're going to be trapping water underground. So you want to have 1 inch of drop per every 8 feet of run, and that's a minimum. If you can go more aggressive, do it. Now in this case, we had 200 linear feet of drain tile system that was going in, and we knew that from the outlet in our storm sewer to our grade 200 feet away, we had a 24-inch change in elevation. And so we divided that up so that we had 12 inches of drop for every 100 feet of run. So that's how we did this project. Whatever your numbers are, whatever your calculations are, make sure that you get that figured out before you start cracking open the ground. So it's important to remember that your outlet elevation will set all elevations on the job from that point forward. Now, if we go a little bit backwards to where we begin at our outlet, and you guys remember how deep that was. We had almost 3 feet of pipe buried, but in that zone, all we were doing was trying to get the water to flow out and away. We weren't as worried about capturing it near the street as we were getting it to go into the storm sewer inlet and go at the proper elevation.
right, we're back out on our drain tile job today. Everything's pretty good and frozen. It rained like a son of a gun on Saturday and then snowed on Sunday, and we got a high of 16 degrees today. And that being said, I am really glad I got my heated Milwaukee jacket on. This thing is great. That's pretty gnarly. Yeah. It started out super wet and now everything is super frozen. All right, so the ASV's been turning pretty sluggish today. And what's going on is the guys did not clean out all that sloppy mud and stuff from this really nasty wet drain tile job that we've been working on. And so what happens is it's been getting well below freezing the last several nights, and it's been staying below freezing during the day. So all of that freezes and hardens up like concrete and jams everything up. So I'm over here with a hammer and a chisel busting out as much of that as I can. That's an important thing to remember, especially with dirt work when it's starting to get cold like this. It's easy thing to do at the end of the day, but not such an easy thing to do the next day, especially when we, you know, need it. So this side I've gotten, it's more cleaned off, but this one over here, you can see that's basically solid. So that's what's going on. It's causing it to turn real sluggish, which is
so this is the backyard, and this is where we wanted to make sure that we were getting our elevations set for that French drain. But our outlet to this French drain is 200 feet away. And so this French drain is set at the right elevation at about 12 inches below grade. But as we come closer to that street, that's where you'll see that we had to deepen it to make sure that everything was still flowing downhill. I know I've said it, I just want to make sure that we're ingraining how important it is to make sure that you don't have any unevenness in that elevation change. So once we've got our French drain installed, now we've got to make sure that we get the grades to flow into it. And that means removing the excess soil that's on the yard and creating a gentle swale down to the French drain. We don't actually want a trench going to the French drain. We want the French drain to be invisible. But we do want to direct and guide all the water down into that area. And so that means we're going to end up regrading this backyard, cutting down all of the grades to make sure that we have all of the elevations set, not just in the drain itself, but the surface elevations set as well, so everything flows to where our drain tile is buried. Because if it doesn't, then we're going to get pooling spots in different locations.
All right, we're back out on our drain tile job. We're gonna finish it up here, or you're gonna be laying sod and there's snow on the ground. So, but everything's graded out. The yard is pitching down this way. Can't really tell because there's snow on it, but we have a swale from the corner of the house running all the way down here. So we'll trap whatever water's coming this way, whatever's coming this way, that way, and from over there, because this house is lower than literally all of the other ones around here.
So yes, you actually heard Sam right. We are going to be laying sod in the snow. And here's some of the things that a lot of people don't know. It's the best time of the year to lay sod. Period, hands down. There is no other time of the year that's better to lay sod than when it's just starting to snow, because the sod is completely dormant. The sod is sound asleep. You don't have to water it. You don't have to maintain it. You don't have to do anything with this sod. And in the springtime, what'll happen is it'll get covered in a nice thick layer of snow. And then as the spring comes, that snow will melt and it'll automatically water your sod for you. You still don't have to maintain it. You still don't have to do anything. Here's the drawback to laying sod in the wintertime. You can't cut it in. So what I'm talking about is that fine edge where the sod meets the existing turf. We like to try to leave that as close as we possibly can, accounting for settlement. So your sod, your grades will settle ever so slightly, approximately 1/4 to 1/2 inch. We always like to leave it just about that much higher than the sod around it. You can't really control that very well this time of the year. You can still get the job done. You're going to have better sod results, but you're not going to have, you're giving up that ability to cut that edge in and make it look like magic when the job is done. It is what it is. So sodding in the wintertime, absolutely, perfectly fine. Actually, I prefer it. It's better for my customers. Alright guys, let's recap what we had going on with this job site. So although it was a French drain, there were a number of components about this job that made it unusual. And the reason why we're going to be covering this is because every single job that you guys go on is going to have elements that are out of the norm. Although the basic system of installing a French drain will always be the same, every job site is going to be unique, and so you're going to be able to have to understand what those elements are and overcome them. Now on this job site, it was a tight site and it was super wet. And we also ended up installing multiple runs of French drain. We installed one through the middle of the backyard and one through the far end of the backyard, and then one on the side yard as well, and then another one on the other side. And so because we had so much going on this site, it limited what we were able to do and how we were able to do that. Meaning, we ended up installing this thing in a modular system. We started at the street, which was our lowest point. It's also the deepest point of that French drain. And if you remember, that drain tile was buried literally almost waist high. It's not effectively collecting surface water when it's that deep. But at the outlet point, we no longer cared if it was collecting surface water. All we wanted it to do at that point was get all of the water that we had collected 200 feet away into the storm sewer inlet, which was another unique characteristic about this job site. Typically, you'll daylight a French drain at grade, wherever gravity allow, you'll put a grate over the top of it. In this case, we were able to actually connect into another drain tile system, which was already perforated through and into a storm sewer inlet. If you do have that on one of your sites, don't puncture a storm sewer inlet without checking with your city first and getting the proper permits, because you will need them. Another thing that was unusual about this site was how long of a run we had from our exit point to where our actual field was. Trust me guys, we had worked a long time on trying to find a closer outlet, and if we could have, we would have, but we weren't able to. So this whole system ended up being well over 200 feet. We had a 24-inch change in elevation, and what we were the most concerned about was where our field was, where we were doing the majority of the collecting. We wanted that to be approximately 12 inches below the surface. So we installed the French drain, and then we cut the surface down to make sure that we had the proper elevation from our surface to our French drain, and then we had the proper run 200 feet away, all the way down and into our storm sewer inlet. So that was today's job, and a big thanks goes out to LMN Software Company for sponsoring this, putting this together. This is a software company for service contractors like you and I. We use it inside of our organization, and I'm going to highly recommend you guys check it out. I've talked to other contractors, and it improved their efficiency and pays for itself month after month after month. And it's something that if it can help you out, I'll gladly endorse it. And that's why these guys, I'm proud to say, are sponsoring today's video. That's all I got for you today. I hope your project goes amazing. And if you have any tips, tricks, or anything you'd like to share, please put it in the comments down below. That's it for today, guys. God bless. Go get them, and do me a favor. Check out the 2 videos I'm going to pop up here for you. We'll see you guys on the next one.